Welcome back to Triumph Fuel and Fire, the podcast where we talk about the mindset, fuel, and the fire that drive performance in every aspect of life. I'm Tyler, the owner of Triumph Studio, where we don't just train the body, we train mind, the habits, and the resilience that turn everyday challenges into triumph. And today, we're going to be talking with Kaitlyn.
Hi.
And Kaitlyn is, done all kinds of different stuff here since you started. Whether physical endurance, mental sharpness, emotional stability, all the different things. Like, you've not only lived that, but you've helped a lot of us here at Triumph with that since joining. So Kaitlyn started as a member a long time ago.
It's 2021, I moved here from Austin.
Okay.
So it'll be four years next month, yeah.
Man, time flies.
It's crazy.
I remember the first time that I saw you here taking a class. And I'd love for Kaitlyn for you to just share a little bit about yourself. Like, what brought you here from Austin? What were you doing in Austin?
Yeah, so I used to live in Carmel, and I worked for Lifetime Fitness. And when I tell you that I drank the Kool-Aid, I never thought I would leave that company. Like, it was incredible. That is what I wanted to do. And I met my ex-husband, the father of my child, at Lifetime, and our whole wedding was lifetime of love. We were all in. And I got a position down in Austin to be nutrition. I was the membership lead, the manager of the front desk. And I told him when we met, I'm moving to Austin at some point in my career with Lifetime, so don't get involved unless you don't want to move. And that's the thing that I think helps me be who I am with nutrition, because when I set my mind to something, I usually don't not achieve it.
I have learned that.
Yeah. So we moved to Austin, loved it. It was my dream. I never thought I would leave there. And then I was the member retention manager for the Austin club, and then I was a retention manager for the area. So I had all of Austin and San Antonio, and then I helped with club acquisitions because we took over some pre-existing clubs down there, and it was a dream. And then I got pregnant. So everything kind of changed with that, and then COVID happened. So Kinley, my daughter, was 1 at the time that COVID came, and everything kind of changed with the dynamic of work. So whereas before I was traveling and I could work from home some days, I was back in the club because the front desk employees were unsure about working because it was that time.
It was a wild time. And
the gym industry during that time was insane. So anyways, long story short, I left Lifetime. Jason left Lifetime, and we were both working remote. And we decided with the housing industry, the way that was in Austin, that we wanted to optimize on the home that we bought and move back closer to family. So I grew up in Lafayette, and the only thing that there is Purdue. So I'm not moving back to Lafayette. So he grew up in Fort Wayne, and we moved back here before we got divorced. And I was a huge CrossFitter. Back in Austin.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes, loved it. And I went to Mad Apple. I actually built my house for the distance that it took to get to Mad Apple. So when we were looking at building our houses, I'm like, I got to be close to the gym. Like, that is the most important thing for me because I was working from home. So get here, it snows in April, inches of snow, and I was like, what is this?
Yeah, what the hell is happening right now?
I did not sign up for this. And then Mad Apple had a pipe burst or something. It was snowing, I wasn't able to work out, so I got online and I was looking for other gyms in the area. Well, when I lived in Indy, I used to box, and I was a front desk employee at Title. So I'm like, cool, dope, there's a boxing gym, I could get back into that. And at Lifetime, we had to go around to other fitness studios and try out group fitness classes because they launched their studio section, and I hated cycle.
Really?
Loathed it. Would only take cycle classes when I had to do the performance reviews. So it was a Tuesday that class closed, and trap was the only thing opened. And I remember getting online, and I reserved the spot, and Mary called, and she's like, hey, welcome to Triumph, your first class experience, get here 15 minutes early. She's like, I want to let you know that this class is an advanced class. And I'm like, I do CrossFit. I'm gonna be just fine. CrossFitters that come in here, I think we all can agree, we have this aura about us that makes us feel like we're better than everybody else. Yeah. So I came in here with a big head.
And CrossFit is everybody's usually strong.
Yes.
But I'll let you tell the story,
it's,
but
it's
I
a
know where this
different
is
type.
going.
It's a different type of strong. So I got on the bike, and at this point, the island bikes were facing the stage.
Yeah.
They weren't facing the mirrors.
Yeah, I remember.
So I get on this bike, and Zach, our coach Zach, is there. David's in the front row, and I remember them like it was yesterday. And I am falling off the handlebars, trying to keep up with this music. I'm like, who in the hell is teaching this class? Like, I'm going to die. I'm literally going to die in this class. And I'm watching David and Zach, and I'm like, I have to be as good as them. Like, I can't not be good at this, because I don't like not being good at things.
Yep.
So from that point, I was hooked, and I remember coming for like the gold party, and I drug Jason in here.
Oh man, that was the 2-year celebration?
2-year, yeah. And we were in the back, and he took class, and he never took cycle either. He's like 240 pounds, 6'2" on this bike. Yeah. And I'm like, I could do this. I was getting better with like the rhythm. I'm like, I think I could teach this class. So things were kind of going crazy with my job, and I wanted to work here. And I remember being on my laptop, literally zooming in on the Google picture where it said like the careers, trying to find the email of how I could get a job here. So that was kind of the start of that thing. And at that point in Austin, I kind of skipped over that part, but I had my own nutrition business. So after I left Lifetime, I couldn't do nutrition with Lifetime because it was a conflict of interest. So I started my own LLC and had my own nutrition business, and they were, somebody had left, and Justin found my Instagram and was like, hey, you're a nutrition coach. Do you want to coach here? And I was like, yes, I will do anything. I will clean the toilets. Just let me be part of this community. So that's kind of how I was brought on to Triumph Nutrition.
Okay. So you didn't find the website? He ended up finding you?
No.
Because he knew you were a member.
He knew I was a member. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember that gold party.
Yeah.
And that time, yeah, the nutrition program was sort of off the ground.
Yeah,
but
a little bit. I think at that point we had me, Karina, and Amelia.
Yeah. Yeah, because I hadn't started really.
I think Kelly Poe did it for a little bit too.
Maybe. Short time.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. And then I did it for a very short time. And then, like, we sort of knew that, like, I sort of knew that, like, ladies needed to work with ladies. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't mind working with ladies. I just know sometimes that a lady.
It's different.
Yeah. Because you guys' bodies do stuff that.
We emotional.
Guys are emotional too.
Yeah, we emotional in different ways.
Don't let us fool you. We be getting in our feels. But that's funny that you say that, and we'll probably cover that later. But that is one of the things that when I work with male clients, like I always make sure to, at least in the very beginning consultation, mention that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you probably won't expect this, but we're gonna talk about feelings and all that stuff, and because it's all tied together.
Yeah. Don't give away the goods yet. We haven't gotten there.
I know, and it is all tied together. So I mean, so that was part of your path of how you got here.
Yes.
And then, so you started as a member initially, and then quickly became part of the nutrition team.
Yes.
And then, what did things start to look like after that? Like, how did you become more involved after that?
Well, like I told you, when I set my mind to something, I normally don't back down without an easy fight. But I saw the potential in Triumph, because when you're on your own as a nutrition coach or someone that has their own LLC, it's really difficult unless you have a very prominent online presence to get leads and clients that way.
Yeah.
So I kind of took a back seat to that when Justin brought me on, and I want to say within the first few months I had 30 clients with nutrition here, and it was really just kind of talking about it and sharing, and it didn't come organically, It came with a little bit of a push, and Karina being in nutrition and going through her competition stuff really helped.
Yeah.
And then obviously Amelia, because of her presence here, and really just starting to talk about it. But we started doing nutrition 101s, and those went really well, and just getting people in the community, whether they're a member or a non-member, to come in. And I think that's where people really got to know me and my story. And it allowed people to hear Karina and Amelia's, because everybody brings a different experience factor to it. And those really helped. And we did those on a pretty consistent basis. And I think that's when the nutrition program started to really take off. Once we stripped down and got vulnerable, they felt a little bit more comfortable and saw who we were as people. Because I remember as a member, you know, you see these coaches, even in the public, like I get recognized, oh, you're that coach. And they're almost like celebrities. And it's kind of hard now that I am a boxing coach to like think of myself like that, but in the community, people are very well known.
Because you're Kaitlyn.
Yeah,
to you.
We're just me. But as a member, I looked at the instructors as like important celebrities because of the impact that they have and how they carry themselves. And, you know, we all carry ourselves that way out there because we are a representation of the studio. Right.
And I think, which we will get to more, it's like once you have that fire inside of you and that mindset training of, it's not the persona anymore. It's just who you are.
It's just who you are.
It's just who the hell you are. And that's what it's like when you become it. That's like, sometimes I'll talk to somebody and I'll mention having lost 100 pounds or whatever, and they'll like, and sometimes I forget. They're like, oh damn, like I know my story, but somewhere along the way I don't always tell it the same way I used to.
Right. Well, it's the same with me too. Like when my story it goes back to when I was a child, and all of those things shape you. So when I was a kid, I was a little chunky. I always had a little bit more meat on my bones. But my first diet that I put myself on, I was in the 8th grade. So I did the special K diet. I put myself on it. Huh. Yes. So I played sports. I played basketball and I played volleyball and I ran track. And I just was not happy with my body. And growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s, like there was just so much stuff out there. Oh, man. And at that time, being thin was what everybody wanted to be. It wasn't about being strong. It wasn't about being healthy. It was about being the smallest that you could be. And so, and I don't know how this ever works now with my knowledge that I have. Bless you.
Excuse me.
It's all right.
Thank you.
But I was eating Special K cereal in the morning. That. Yes, Special K cereal for lunch. I would pack my lunch every single day. I had Special K cereal, pretzels, and Gatorade. And then I would have Special K cereal at night.
Couple carbs.
All carbs.
Couple carbs.
All carbs, all day long. And I lost, I think I was like 150. And I was chunky in 8th grade. And going into my freshman year, I was about 110. So I lost about 40 pounds. Just restricting. And I stayed pretty lean all the way through high school, but I was very active playing softball and doing all that stuff. So when I was in my senior year, I worked 2 jobs, and my mom had cancer. She found out she had uterine cancer. So my mom was going through chemotherapy. I was working to try to pick up the slack and honestly to keep my mind off of it. And that's kind of how I have been for the last 15 years because I don't process trauma very well. I dive into work, and I
get that.
How do I want to say this?
And I see that in you.
Yeah. So I drown out noise with anything and everything that I can do to make myself better because I typically put my self-worth towards what my career is and how much I'm given, which is not a good thing in all cases, but it's made me who I am.
Right.
So my mom was going through chemotherapy, and then right into my college years, I went to Purdue. I got a full ride to Purdue, and I was majoring in psychology and photography. So I don't know how I plan to do those two together.
Yeah,
but
those are interesting, and that's wild. Yeah, Kelly has a degree in psychology and criminal justice, which makes sense. But photography,
it's the creative part of me. Yeah, I love photography. I love the creative side of things, and psychology. I just have always been really fascinated with the human mind. And I really wanted to either have my own practice or do psychology for individuals who are in jail because I always thought that was interesting. Like, why did you make those behaviors?
Yeah. And you don't have to talk about this, but like, did some of that stem from your father?
Well, that's what I'm getting to, yes.
Okay.
So going into my freshman year of college, I get a phone call. I'm at home. My mom has chemo brain. She's in bed. And my stepbrother calls, and he was like, Dad's dead. And I'm like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? Like, hearing that, I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
So I was actually supposed to be at his house the night that happened, because my photography project in 4-H went to state. So it was at the Indiana State Fair. And I was at work. I worked at American Eagle. I was a assistant manager at that point. And I picked up a shift because it's all I ever did. And he called me and he's like, hey, or I called him and I said, I'm not going to come over tonight. I'm going to pick up a shift. I'll see you tomorrow when we leave. And he was like, okay, we'll take grandma's truck. And I'm like, that's weird. Like, why would we do that? I ate Texas Roadhouse for dinner that night. I'll never forget. Went and ate the steak, went home. I got that phone call. And my dad lived like 10 minutes away from me. So I'm driving down the highway and all I can see are just the flashing lights. And he was gone. He had committed suicide. So when you're in that position, it's surreal. Like, you don't really realize what is going on. But my little brother had found him, and he was in my grandma's truck. So
which is why he said...
He prefaced it that way. I mean, it couldn't have been more than 5 hours from that phone call until he did it.
And he didn't say anything.
There was nothing. However, my dad had thyroid problems. And there were some marital things that I think were going on that I didn't want to believe back then with my stepmom, because you don't see that stuff. And I had a breakdown. I mean, I went to school for 6 months and I left to Texas. I'm like, I got to get out of here. Like, I could not be in the same state.
You moved to Texas
the first time.
Okay.
Yeah, the
so
first
that was
time.
before Lifetime and...
Yes. So I was 18 and me and my best friend drove down to Texas. I was dating a guy in the military. That was a whole other disaster of a story. But I left. I'm like, I can't do it. And I worked my way through American Eagle, and I became a store manager at the age of 21, which I never should have been in that position, and I dropped out of school. So that being said, I found out I had thyroid issues when I was 19. And that kind of kick-started the catalyst to nutrition, because I did not want to be like my dad. And his mom had dementia. She had diabetes. Yeah. She lived in a nursing home for 15 years of her life. He was taking care of her. Then he dies by suicide. He had hypothyroid. I found out I had hypothyroid. Yeah. And I was like, I cannot.
Yeah.
I can't, because it's...
So you took control of the things that you can control.
Correct. And that really was where, like, I had always, like I said, been an athlete, but fitness for mental health, that was my turning point, because I started running and I competed in 5Ks and I won first place in a lot of my races, because that was the only time that I let myself feel anything. I was completely shut off until I worked out, and I was able to mourn, and I was able to release, and I was able to have mental clarity. And then that's when I got my first nutrition certification and personal training cert through ISSA in 2010. And that's where it all began.
See, and that's crazy to me, because it's crazy in a way of like, man, I feel so many parallels on that. I mean, my father, obviously it didn't happen in the same way. Like, that's a tragic shock to the system. Yeah. To where, like you said, you take control of every aspect that you can, and you just grind and you just work. And in some regards that wasn't healthy, but it also in turn taught you really healthy things. Yeah. Where, like, for me, I just got a phone call. My father was gone, and being at his funeral, seeing him laying there, like, I was walking in his footsteps. I was 100 pounds overweight, alcoholic. And I look over, and there he is, 56, laid down to take a nap, never woke up. But the silver lining, I think, in both of our situations was that was the catalyst that got me to wake up.
Everybody has a turning point, whether they have experienced that yet or not.
Or that they realize that that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Like, in the moment, I didn't realize my life was shifting. I mean, obviously I knew my life changed, because that's one of the interesting things about losing a parent. It's like, there are so many things in life that are just, you don't know, but every day you wake up, you have a mom and a dad. Yeah. And then one day you wake up and you don't. Right. And it's such a wild feeling, and it's really hard to explain. Yeah. But then, like you said, kept yourself busy to numb the pain, And the only, like you said, a key thing for me that I think everybody here at Triumph, if they haven't discovered it, they are in the process of discovering. It's physically doing hard things lets you tap into that deep-seated trauma that you either knew you were avoiding dealing with, or all of a sudden you'll be in there on that bike in the dark and Amelia or somebody will say something and you'll be like, oh shit.
And it's always like they're talking right to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the part the community aspect that we realize connects us, that the pain that you feel like, how could anyone else understand? And then you realize like, oh damn, everyone else understands.
Yeah. And that was a big part. Like, I remember talking to Justin about trying to coach, and he asked me why. And Triumph could not embody what my personal mission is for my life anymore. And I have been to a lot of fitness studios because I had to go to them for a lifetime. And when I tell you that there is nothing like it, it is not me drinking the Kool-Aid. There's nothing like it. And for me, it's mental training, it's physical training, it's nutrition, it's a whole space for mental health and for that individual to be seen, to be heard, to feel valued, and to grow not only physically but mentally too.
Yeah.
And that's why I love this space, and I had to be part of it. And I told him, I said, I want to be a coach because I want to make people feel the way that I have felt inside of these spaces. Like, I have a story and I have something that will connect with someone on a personal level.
Yeah.
And I think a lot, especially around the time that he died August 8th, 2008. I think a lot about how my life would be if that didn't happen. Like, where would I be? Would I have finished out college at Purdue? It would be completely different because I wouldn't have done all of the things that I do now.
And you wouldn't be sitting here right now.
I don't know that I would have found my passion and my gift for not only nutrition, but learning how to communicate with people on that emotional level because I've experienced it.
And that's a powerful thing right there, because surface level, it can be easy for some of us who get a chance to benefit from your knowledge, from your gift, from your talent. You have clients that have no idea what you just shared. And every gift, every talent comes at a cost.
Yeah.
And it's wild that it could be that, it could be something else, but it all costs us something. And I'm glad that you mentioned the fact that you were focused on becoming a boxing coach, because you did achieve that, and you now are a boxing coach, and you do feed people's minds and their souls in that room, in that same way. But you almost, I don't want to say you gave up, but you took a step back from that, and you weren't sure for a while.
Yeah.
Like, what was that process kind of? What was that like?
So basically, everything with my divorce was happening, and I had to move. So I moved in with my current partner, Alan, and everything's fantastic. But that was very difficult for me to come to the realization that the reason that I left the place that I wanted to be and built this beautiful brand new dream house with my family, I was walking away from. And I made the decision. It was a very mutual decision between both of us. We're very amicable now, and it's great, and we co-parent amazingly. But it was like everything that I worked to accomplish was for no reason. You know what I mean? Like, I left Austin, which I never wanted to leave. I got there by working hard and being diligent, and it was earned. It wasn't given, because I was a female in a male's world. And I had a lot of respect, and I was very good at what I did. And I walked away from that to try to rebuild something here, to be a family close to family. And I didn't accomplish that. And then when I was training for boxing, I'm very competitive, and this is no news to anybody, but it was when Danielle was training too. Yeah. So I got in my head, because it wasn't we have two good coaches for me, it's I have to beat her type of situation. So with all the external things going on, I couldn't truly be what I am now, because it was a competition. It wasn't just be you, because I was trying to prove something to myself, that I was still worthy, that I was still capable, because everything else had just crumbled.
Do you think, was there any part during that training process that you think Triumph made it a competition, or did Kaitlyn make it a competition?
No, I did. It wasn't Triumph. Danielle had no idea. She was doing her thing.
Right.
She's fantastic. She's a great boxing coach. I made it about me, because I wanted to feel like I was special again, because my marriage was gone. My house was gone. I uprooted my kid and moved her into a new place and introduced her to a new man, which I never thought I would have to do. And I mean, everything's fantastic now, but I won't sit here and lie, and Alan will tell you the same thing, that it's not been easy for me the last couple years, and I don't let that stuff show to anybody but him. So he gets the worst of me.
Kelly can relate.
Yeah.
I just had that conversation the other day. But that's part of what you've trained yourself since that phone
and now
call.
you know what I mean? It's like I moved into his home. It's not mine. I mean, it's ours now, but I didn't build that house. That wasn't my hard work showing for it. Like, I was in his space. I was relying on somebody else.
Well, but and that's part of having an actual partner. It doesn't have to be yours or his, or it's a home.
But it wasn't good enough for me.
Yeah. It's wild how we're wired that way. It's like we could have everything right in front of us.
Yeah, and we don't see it.
Yeah.
Which is why health is so important.
Right.
And why nutrition is so important, because, I mean, that's what I talk to a lot of my clients about, is just seeing what they are doing as progress, even if it's not what they want to reflect on the scale. And that all goes into, it's your viewpoint. It's how you look at things.
Right.
Are you getting stronger? Are you sleeping better? Are you feeling better? Great. I don't care if you're the same weight this week.
Right. Let's stop focusing on that. And I'm glad that you kind of just did what I was wanting to do, which is segue into more of the nutrition side of stuff, because I wanted to cover some of your background just so people can understand who you are and why you are the way you are. I mean, because that's powerful it just, like you had said earlier when we started doing the one-on-ones, we realized that we can't ask people to be vulnerable if we're not going to be vulnerable. And you're just a real person.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a badass, but
just me. I'm broken too.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the beauty of Triumph, is we've all been through some shit, and we're not afraid to hold that space. Like, especially all the nutrition clients.
Yeah.
Like, we're not afraid to hold that space and have that uncomfortable conversation, because we know that if you're going to get where you say you want to go, we got to go there.
Yeah.
Because if we don't get to the root issue of why your habits nutritionally are the way they are, you're just going to revert back to the old way of thinking. And nutrition is so much more than just protein, carbs, and fat, and calories, and alcohol. But it's what are you reading? What podcasts are you taking in? What classes are you in? What community are you in? Who's your circle? Like, all of that. Would you agree?
I'm glad you said that, because so with me having my own nutrition practice and coaching a certain way, every nutrition coach knows this. If there's a new fad other than the O word, which we're not going to deep dive into, I've tried it. I've done it because I want to give real life experience about the goods, the bads, and the ugly. Yeah. Like, I will try anything as long as it's not going to hurt me long term, to see what that is. And Triumph, that being said, I've had a lot of coaches in nutrition. One, because most coaches have a coach to keep them accountable. And two, I'm curious as to how other people are coaching. And when I tell you we have the best, we have the best. And it's because we're not just looking at macros. We're not just looking at calories. I had a coach before that only looked at my calories. They didn't look at anything that I was eating. And knowing what I know, coaching more functionally than, just a generalized nutrition coach, food plays such a huge role in everything that we do. So I'm not looking at just calories. Our coaches look at every single thing that you are eating. They're looking at your food timing, especially if you're extremely active. They're looking at the content of your food, the quality of your food. And beyond that, we're looking at, what did you do for self-care? What are you doing to excel mentally and emotionally? How are you sleeping? What are your sleep schedules like? And then giving feedback based on that bioavailability that we're getting from that individual. So all of our check-ins are very personalized, and that's why that trust has to be built, because we're not having surface level conversations. We're talking to them about life. We're celebrating their career advancements. We're really diving into their life as one unit, the mind, the body, the soul, and the gut, because it's all connected.
Yeah, and it goes both ways, because if your body's full of inflammation, or if your gut health is all bad, it is really hard to focus on getting that promotion at work if you constantly feel like shit. Mm-hmm. Like, whether it's the mental fog that we had discussed before we got this going, or just feeling drugged down all the time. Like, it's all tied together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of people, and I've said this before, so my business was called Metanoia, and its change begins from within, because that's exactly where change happens. And that can be taken, from your brain or from your gut, whatever may see it. But people do not know what feeling good really feels like. Yeah. Because everybody, especially now, is in a constant state of busy. Right. And you're a businessman, you do a lot of cohorts. Busy is not always a good thing. No, it's a lot of times it's worn as a badge of honor, when really it's like, and I'm learning this, it's funny you say that, like, just because through studying the Bible every day, like the importance of rest. And I know sometimes you'll get on me. Yeah. Because I don't rest as much as I should, but it's so important. Yes. From cortisol levels, stress level, all these different things that are tied together that I might think I try not to use the B word. I have a lot going on. You hate the B word. I have a lot going on, but am I being efficient? Because just because I am staying active, if I'm mentally not tuned in, if I feel like shit, if I'm stressed out, you're not being as productive as you would be. No. Or I'll do something and you'll have to email me the next day and be like, hey, did you realize that you missed this step? And I'll be like, damn it. Dang it. Yeah. But it happens. Yeah. But that's part of it. Yeah, and so you mentioned like inflammation and gut health and stuff. So you mentioned how everybody on our team kind of has a specialty. Yeah. What is your specialty? So my specialty is working with individuals who have thyroid conditions, but also autoimmune. So it wasn't until 3 years ago that I realized I had Hashimoto's. And that is really when I started diving into all of that, because that stems from the thyroid. So Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition where your body attacks the thyroid. And that stems from trauma. I've experienced a fuck ton of that. Right. Environmental toxins, things that we are putting in our bodies right now. And it can be from childhood too. I remember when I was little, I had terrible gut issues, but we didn't know about this stuff back then. Right. I would have to eat 2 Tums before and after I ate anything greasy, or I would get sick 6 or 7 times. Really? And my mom took me to the doctor. I called her and asked her about it. And I was like, why did we never, that's not normal. Like, if Kinley was getting sick that many times, I wouldn't just give her Tums. Yeah, but back then it was just part of, it was normal. Well, I would say that is still prevalent in our culture of general medicine now. Well, yeah. But I was on antacid medicine for acid reflux in high school. I mean, I was a child. Obviously, something was not right. Yeah. So, I mean, Hashimoto's can stem from that, but it all stems from the gut. It's how your gut is working together. Yeah. The bacteria that you have in it, all of those things. So the gut is called what? Second brain? Yes. The gut is your second brain. And it is the access between your gut and your brain access controls so many things. And your thyroid controls everything metabolically. So, I mean, I feel for anybody who has a thyroid condition, because it is extremely difficult, one, to lose weight, or if you're hyperthyroid, to gain weight, because they're opposite of one another. Hypo is underactive, hyper is overactive. But you have to watch everything, and you have to change your behaviors too. how you're cooking, what you're cooking with. You know, those may sound extreme, but we're just exposed to so many more environmental toxins nowadays than we were.
Yeah.
Sugar is a huge one.
Sugar is.
And it's in everything.
The most spread drug on the planet.
It is. It is. And we're so accustomed, we talked about being busy or having a lot to do, to that grab and go culture.
Yeah.
And most of those grab and go foods are packaged, and packaged foods are not real food.
Right.
Made to
It's
sit on a
convenience.
shelf and not.
Yeah,
rot.
and that's what I think a lot of times people forget, that food manufacturers, they're in sales. That's what they are. They don't care if you're healthy. They don't
Right.
care if they're in sales.
Yeah.
They want it to taste good enough, which is, I mean, kind of like you had mentioned, sugar and everything.
Yeah.
High fructose corn syrup. It's like, hey, if God said, here's a little bit of sweet stuff to make it palatable, man says, well,
Yeah.
let's fire that up.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we did the same thing with cocaine. Like the coca
Yep.
plant has medicinal purposes and good things to it too, but if you
Yeah.
turn it into cocaine, you can really party.
Yes. But that's the whole thing, I mean, with food. And it's meant to be marketed. Like if you go walk a grocery store.
Yeah.
So when I get clients that have never done any sort of nutrition coaching, very green, know nothing, the first thing that I teach them is how to shop the grocery store. Now, obviously we have ClickList and Instacart and things right now, but you shop the perimeter of that grocery store and everything is fresh fruits, vegetables, dairy products, and meat.
Right, because it goes bad quick.
Yes.
Quick.
So shopping the perimeter, that is where 80%, if we want to throw the 80-20 rule, 80% of your food should come from there.
Yep.
The inside aisles are all of your packaged food. And to market it, they keep the stuff that kids want
Right.
at kids level. It's all sales, like you said.
It's marketing.
It's
for
marketing.
Sure.
So you should limit the interior of the grocery store as much as possible because that's where the processed foods are.
Yeah, man, they're in sales.
Yeah.
Well, and we could go down a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah,
It's
I
for
want-
another episode.
Want you to stay sick. So, well, and that's kind of like what we were talking about. You know, you had mentioned like Big Mac and SAD, which is like the way food, not only processed, but the way it's grown has evolved over the
Yes.
years. Like,
Yeah.
and our bodies think they're cavemen and women.
Yeah, so the Paleolithic time, so we don't use the word diets here. So when
Right.
we talk about Triumph Nutrition, we're talking about something that is sustainable for you
Yeah.
for the rest of your life. That is why we require a 3-month commitment, and it's a slow process. I mean, I have taken clients before. I've coached a junior Olympic athlete. She had a very specific plan that she had to eat processed things before meets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have coached people for cuts that were a specific amount of time. But majority of my clients, we're going through a cut while we're working on a metabolic reset.
Right.
And that comes with time because a lot of times people coming to me, I would say 7 out of 10, are severely under eating.
Most of the time
Yes.
when I start working with someone, I would say
Yeah.
they're under eating.
Right.
Which is the way our society has been trained. Work out more, eat less.
Yes. Yeah. And unfortunately, that's just the culture that we live in because there's so many things out there. So the paleo diet, the keto diet, you know, you hear all of these things and people get confused because they don't know where to start. Or they try keto and it works, but then they gain it back when they start to eat like
Right.
a normal person again, and then they don't know where to go. So what has happened over time is they're dieting for 10 to 12 weeks, and then they stop the diet because the diet is over from a 3-month or a 12-month plan.
That's what I was just going to ask you, like
Yes.
why we don't use the word diet.
Right. And then they gain it back, and then they go do something else. Okay, so keto worked and then it didn't work. I'm going to go try
Right.
Weight Watchers.
Yep. It's the same thing people used to ask me when I coached Beachbody. They would finish P90X. And this blew my mind, but it happened over and over. People would be like, hey, I just finished. What do I do now? Do it again.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Right.
They're like, well, it says it's only 90 days. It's like, dude, come on.
Yeah. But it's that short-term
Right.
reward that we want.
Right. It's just like a drug. You want the hit.
Yep.
The hit feels good.
Yeah.
Well, shit, now what?
Now they go back and then they feel miserable again.
Yeah.
So over time, what has happened is our metabolism has adapted
Yeah.
to that starvation mode. So going back to the Paleolithic times, so we are derived from hunter-gatherers, right? So if you think about caveman times, you were either a predator or you were prey. So when we talk about all these things that we talk about in nutrition, eating, for the perimeter, you're talking about dark leafy greens that gives you your iodine and, all of your micronutrients, your berries and your seeds and meat and grains if they had it there.
Right.
But people ate berries and raspberries and things like that in order to get energy to go find food for their family, or they would die.
Right.
So the fruit is sugar, yes. And I shared something on my Instagram the other day about people saying that fruit makes you fat. No, it's a carbohydrate.
Right.
But the carbohydrate increases your insulin, which gives you dopamine, which back then when our stress was, fight or flight.
Yeah, literally
fight or flight. That's the dopamine they were getting.
Right.
To survive.
And our bodies are still getting it just on a heightened state, and it doesn't know what to do with it.
Correct.
Because now we sit there and watch Netflix and chill instead of chasing down a buffalo or some shit.
Yes. So when we have sugar, processed foods, our energy drinks, which we all have a vice with, I know I'm not calling you out. I have the problem too.
I'll call me out.
But our dopamine is high, and all that is doing is rewiring our brain to need that.
Right.
But there's nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
So when we talk about stress on the body, there's good stress and there's bad stress, but our body doesn't know the difference.
Right, it just knows stress.
It just knows stress. So back in the olden days when we had stress, our body had that flight and we were going to kill our prey. The same thing, with the circadian rhythm and sleep, which is, you'd be texting me at 6:30 sometimes and I'm asleep.
Yeah.
But that is one thing.
She legit be sleeping.
Legit 6:30. If I'm coaching in the morning and I don't have my kid the night before, I don't do well. My body just does not function on less than 8 hours of sleep. And that is a commitment that I have made to myself because I need that mental clarity and I need the energy. But it kind of goes into, like winter, we tend to get tired and more lethargic and have less energy to do things. It's because our bodies are wired to sleep in the winter.
Hibernate.
Yeah. And we are on our phones until 11 o'clock at night, staring at a blue light screen that's doing nothing for us. That dopamine is going. So our brain is not getting rest when we actually go to sleep. And then we wake up and do it all again. So basically, we're just getting all of these hits of dopamine, and we're not allowing our body to actually have rest. And that's why winter is so hard for people. Not only because of the light, we're not getting the natural light from the sun, but our bodies are wired to hibernate.
And we're never shutting our brain off.
No, we're meant to rise with the sun, to be out in nature, to be active, to eat meat, vegetables, and fruits.
Right.
And go to sleep with the moon.
And that's part of why people naturally back then had the fire.
Yeah.
They were taking in the fuel just to survive, which gave them the fire that we now, whether we don't realize we're putting it out ourselves.
Yeah.
All those things, your energy levels, your metabolism just shut down.
Yeah.
In the same way, a lot of times when I'll start working with a new client, we'll talk about the campfire analogy as far as training your metabolism. Because kind of like you said, I don't adhere to diets because a diet starts and then it stops.
Right.
And a lot of times it's normal for somebody to get up, not have breakfast. That's a normal thing.
Yeah.
And then probably have lunch, fairly big lunch, because you're pretty hungry. And then not eat again until dinner. And by then you just slam.
Yeah.
Which it trains our metabolism to basically just store away what we need to survive because our bodies still think we're cavemen.
Yeah.
To where if you train your metabolism, which takes a month, up to 3 months, depending on how consistent you are, to always be burning.
Yeah. You should not ever not be hungry. Not being hungry is not a good thing.
Right.
So I've competed. And you do things to suppress your appetite because you're not eating for a specific reason.
Yeah.
But, working with women, your hormones are so important. And if you're not getting the appropriate amount of fat, the body will stop menstruating because you can't have a life inside of you. Like your body at that point is not viable to reproduce.
Right.
So oftentimes athletes or competitors will lose their menstrual cycle. I know Karina has, because the body's hormones are whacked.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it takes a long time to come out of that and to resync yourself. So is it healthy? Absolutely not. But knowing how to retrain that metabolism and get your hormones back is part of why we are so unique, because I've competed, Karina's competed, Amelia's competed. We've all gone through all of those stages, and
Yep.
every individual is different. So I would not coach someone that way, and
Right.
I wouldn't take a competitor to coach them through, because I don't want that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It takes a very special individual to do that, and I know Karina kind of feels the same way. But we do have a really good understanding about the body.
Right.
And you
Yeah.
kind of talked about like the diet culture and why we're different. We have the 12-month roadmap.
Yep. Yeah. And a lot of this ties into mindset. Like, before we go to the 12-month roadmap, how would you say, like, the science of nutrition, because we kind of hit on a lot of those different things, how do you think that affects performance, peak performance? Let's say it's whether you're being the best mom, you could be the best spouse, you could be the best at your career. Like, what are some of the key things that you've seen as far as, like, if someone, because a lot of times we focus on, I got to get that promotion,
Yeah.
but that means I'm gonna skip a meal so that I can do this. But it's counterproductive.
It is. You can't pour from an empty cup. And that's, it kind of ties into Triumph Studio too, because the people that show up at 5 a.m., I'm one of them. I don't do that because I want to do it. I don't like getting up that early.
It's gross some days.
Yes, but I do it because that is the only time that I have for myself where I'm not giving my energy to anybody else.
Yeah.
And my boss, he knows the days I haven't worked out. It's miserable. He's like, don't do it again tomorrow. Like, he knows that is my time. But we're the 10%. The rest of society is not like that.
Yeah.
So giving yourself that space, not only to set aside for your performance, your workout, but you have to fuel your mind and you have to fuel your body after that. Because yes, it is amazing to be inside of these studios and doing the work, because it's not an easy workout. But if you're not fueling yourself on that back end with those nutrients that allow you to move in that way, you're going to give yourself a disservice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's fantastic that we have a studio and nutrition all in one, because we teach you how to use that fuel and how to be in this space and how to level up on your weights. Because when you're depleted of carbohydrates, we just talked about this, your body needs those carbs to use the energy to perform in class. If you're not eating enough protein, you're not going to have the muscle recovery as you would. So you're going to be sore for much longer than you were if you were getting that full amino acid profile. And if you're not having the fats, your mental clarity is not going to be there. So it all ties in, and it's the same thing for people at work. Like, I work for a company that builds houses, right? And I've gone on ride-alongs with project managers who are out in the field all day doing very strenuous work.
Right.
And this girl, first time I went out there, she had a bag of Doritos the entire day.
Yep.
And I'm bringing my, my whole book bag, all of my food, trying to find a model home to warm up my shit in.
Yep.
And I'm like, how have you only eaten? I've burned 3,000 calories today.
Right.
Cleaning, lifting 2x4s, working out here. It's on your feet all day long, and you have a bag of chips.
Yeah.
And
that's
then,
what's crazy. It's crazy that someone in that field, it's almost like you have to break it down in a way that they can understand. It's like, you're trying to build this healthy body without the materials.
Right.
Like, this house that you're going to finish, what if the contractor wasn't delivered half their materials? They ain't building shit.
No.
But that's what we do.
Right.
To this physical, as you coined when we did the mastermind, your forever home.
Yeah.
But people take it for granted every day.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, you have to fuel your body. Like, if you had a Bugatti, you would not be putting 87 whatever gasoline or oil in it. I don't even know what it takes. But you would take care of it.
Right.
And you have to take care of your body. You have to give it those nutrients, because like you said, like, if you're striving for that promotion at work, You need to be a better spouse, a better employee, and to do that, you have to have the nutrients.
Right.
Your mind needs to stay sharp. You need to be able to not be irritable. You need to be able to have not only the emotional intelligence, but the ability to recognize and be in tune with yourself, to know when you need to pivot and what your mind and your body needs in order to make those big decisions. Because when we don't have sleep, when we lack nutrients, lack water, our mind is not sharp.
Right.
So we make errors. We make decisions that we wouldn't normally make.
Well, and you said, like, as you're training those habits on what you're physically fueling your body with, you also have to match that in a lot of ways with that mindset training, where it's picking up that personal development book. Like when I first started, I thought they were cheesy as hell. But thankfully I had a coach that saw something in me, and I'll never forget, his name is Tommy Migrant. He was on the first P90X infomercial. He mailed me these 2 personal development books. One of them was Anthony Robbins, changed my whole life. And part of it was because I then understood that I had to feed this, which would feed my soul, which would feed that part of me that thought I wasn't worth it. So in those moments when, like, maybe I don't want to eat chicken and broccoli, because just like pushing through in your boxing class, there's going to be moments where if you don't have those carbohydrates, your body's going to want to break down. But a lot of times our physical body it's this.
Yep.
And you have to match that mindset training, but it's all tied together. Like you said, if you're not eating the right things, you're not going to give a shit.
No.
If you
won't.
read that book or not.
No.
But it's growing the self-discipline over time, which, to go where you were going, the 12-month roadmap, that's why that is, and I think we both agree, such a powerful tool that we now have to offer to clients, because it focuses on not only all of the things that we talked about from a macro standpoint, a scientific standpoint, but it's the creation of healthy habits that are sustainable.
Right. And sustainable is the key word.
Yeah.
Because, the 12 weeks, we require a 3-month commitment. Most clients don't leave after that. That's usually when we're getting started.
Right.
Because when I work with a client, like I said, I'm going slow, and every client comes to me at a different level. Some people have done it before, some people haven't, but regardless of where you're at, our experience is entirely different. And it's just like watching a movie. You can watch a movie or a show multiple times, and every time you watch it, you get something new out of it.
Yes.
So the 12-month roadmap is a year plan that came from an idea from Tyler. He texted over like some bullet points, and he was like, this is my idea, run with it, and it's done.
And you did an amazing job.
Thank you.
With it. Yeah. It exceeded expectations. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, that's why you were able to take, and that's why I knew you were the right one for it. Like, you have all those years of experience, personal experience, professional experience, and the passion for it.
Right. And that's the thing. I want, when my client decides that they are ready to move on by themselves, I want them to have that empowered feeling, and there will be no question that they can sustain this for the rest of their life. And there may be points where they come back for, I just need some accountability. I'm that way.
Yeah.
Like, JD's coaching me right now because I just need someone to look at my shit and tell me to log my food. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need a lot, but just that extra piece of just somebody being there, making sure that you're staying on top of it. That's why you have a business coach.
Right. A lot of times a coach is just there to remind you of things you already know.
Correct. But for the things that people don't know, we have that too.
Right.
So going through the roadmap, your first 3 months, like I said, I'm just getting to know that client. I'm getting to know their habits. They're setting habits and goals for themselves. So you talk about finding your why. And I think that's a very powerful part of that oftentimes is overlooked in nutrition. Because I've gone through, like I said, I was a woman in a man's world. I've been in many, many seminars and leadership talks, and that's something that we talk about in leadership a lot. Yeah. But finding your why for nutrition, that is the first step of them getting vulnerable with me and me being able to be vulnerable back to them. And sharing those experiences, because it's not about me, it's about them.
Right.
But if I can get them to see, you don't want to lose 20 pounds. That's not your goal.
Well, and that's why we do the why exercise, because we all have heard, like, know your why, but that's surface level.
Yes.
That doesn't go down to because like you said, you don't want to lose 20 pounds. Like, what's the next layer of of the why.
So we break those layers down so that they can sit with themselves and do reflection on why they invested this time. Because I'm sure people think about it. I'm sure people have thought about it and haven't.
Most of us know what we should and shouldn't do.
Right.
But why don't we do it?
Because we're scared.
I mean, a lot of times
Yeah.
we're scared we're going to fail. And that's just the big thing. Is like, so what if you
Fail.
So what if you do?
What if you fly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing that I think Justin and I talked about it. It's like the what if. Mm-hmm. Like if you change the inflection on that, it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Like, man, what if? Well, holy shit, what if?
Right.
Like, what if I take off?
Mm-hmm. And they don't know. I mean, they don't know what they're capable of physically in the rooms, because if they're new to nutrition, they haven't fueled themselves properly.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. I mean, we as coaches talk about like being up on that box podium and seeing
Yeah.
the room move. And it is a moving experience. I have had tears coaching a class before and goosebumps, because you see people doing things in those rooms that they didn't think they could do.
Yep.
And that is what I experience as a nutrition coach in my check-ins and when I hear my clients' wins. And they're not always scale wins.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
Jenna Luke went in there, and I'm pretty sure it was 45 pounds that she lifted. She never thought she could do that.
Yeah, non-scale victories, man.
Yes.
All day.
And it's the non-scale victories that we really hit on.
Yeah.
Because your body composition, it changes. You
Well,
may gain muscle and your weight may be the same for 12
We were
weeks.
just talking about
Just
my
talking about it.
expectations. That was the biggest thing that I've learned as a client, as a coach, as someone who got rid of the 100 pounds and then had skin surgery after 11 years. My body doesn't look the way I expected it to. Big lesson for me. Accept it.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful. I'm healthy.
Right.
Blood work came back great. Amazing. But it's learning how to focus on the right things.
Those things that are not external.
Yeah.
And that's really the mindset shift is, yes, people desire a physical appearance transformation. Okay.
Yeah, that's the surface level.
That's the
Why?
surface level of their why.
Yeah.
But when we can get to the root level of their why, that's where the magic happens. That's where they can look at themselves in the mirror and not see all of the imperfections.
Right.
They can see that they're strong. They can see that they're capable. They can recognize that maybe their fuse isn't as short with their kid, that they're a happier spouse, that they're a better mom, that their career is taking off at work.
Yeah.
Because
And
they've
sometimes-
invested that in them.
Yep. And sometimes you got to go through hell to get to that final.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know for me, when I did it, it was like, yeah, I want to lose 100 pounds. Why? Like, because I don't want to be a drunk anymore and have my wife have to bail me out and bring my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I don't want to be 56 in a casket like my dad. Like, but then when you get there, like you just got to sit in that for a minute.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times that's what we're afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh shit. Because that hits.
Yeah. It's
And
personal.
And then it's like, oh damn. But that's why you find a coach you can trust that will not only educate you, will pick you up when you fall down, because we're all going to,
Yep.
but will also show you some tough love, but will also give you grace as you grow over that 12 months.
Yeah. It's not about perfection. There's no perfection in nutrition.
No.
Things are going to change. You're going to go on vacations. You're going to have times where you have weak moments, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Unless you are stepping on stage, that is life. And that is
Facts.
what I want people to realize is that, like I always tell them, if you wake up and you eat 12 Oreos, log that shit.
Yep.
I don't care.
No.
I need an accurate
No, it's
depiction.
your goal.
That's, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I will tell you, maybe eat 6 next time.
Yep.
But I'm
Peel them shits in half.
Yes.
Only have one half.
But it's never a judgment thing. Like, oh, I'm scared of my coach to look at what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's just,
I've had
how
clients
can
come
I
to me
make you
before and
better?
they're like, I don't want to let you down. I was like, hold on, I'm here for you.
The only person they're gonna let down is themselves.
Right. But but it's getting the realization. And sometimes that takes 6 months
Yeah.
to have that aha moment. So if somebody wanted to work with any of the coaches here or you, how do they get
in
How
touch.
do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so if they're in the studio, you could ask the front desk, and we have a jot form that the client would fill out. And like I said, every coach has their different expertise. So you would fill out the jot form. We ask some general questions, what are your goals, height, weight, stats that we would need to know to enroll them. And then there's a section for a specific coach request. So first coach choice, second coach choice. Once we receive that, then we get a hold of that individual and set them up for a consult. The consult's $50. That's where we meet typically 30 to 45 minutes, and we do an in-body. The in-body, for those of you who don't know what that is it's what we measure your body composition on. So most of the time, we don't have clients weigh in on a home scale because of all of the different variables that can go with water. If you're a female, what stage of the cycle that you're on. So we look at your body fat and your muscle mass. We review it, teach you how to read it, and something that I specifically look at and track is a client's BMR, which is their basal metabolic rate, because our goal would be to increase that. Because if your BMR is higher, you're able to consume more food while still losing weight or maintaining. So that is a metabolic feature that I track for all of my clients. After we review the in-body, we'll have a discussion. We'll kind of go over your whys, and then talk about the commitment, and we enroll you. You get, Michelle is demoing our Triumph Nutrition Cup. I don't know if you guys can see it, but we have Triumph Nutrition tumblers, and then you also get a hard copy of that 12-month roadmap for the entire year. So it goes through different sections that correspond to our Triumph Nutrition app. So you'll have worksheets that you're able to fill out and send back to your coach through our app that we review every 12 weeks and redo your why. We go back to your why every 12 weeks. And it takes you through all of the foundations, from the very beginning. And then we get into the more of the nitty gritty stuff with meal timing, supplementation, things that are level 2.
Yeah.
And then during level 3, we continue depending on what your goal is and where you are, and then start teaching you intuitive eating, which is not tracking every single day, to kind of play with the client doing it on their own while the coach is still present. And then that final phase is more intuitive eating and us being there for them for the mental aspects. But the hope would be that they're able to sustain everything that they've accomplished on their own.
Yeah. Go fly.
Go fly.
Go fly all on your own. And that's the thing. I mean, like you said, intuitively, you're able to go to a restaurant with zero fear, order off of that menu, any menu,
right?
Put things together, realizing that they're in the business of selling you food,
right?
Mix and match ingredients, have the confidence to do that, know what to put in there, and then just go live life.
Yeah, without fear of failure.
Right. And if you, on a Friday night, your kids want pizza and ice cream, I'm talking from personal experience, maybe.
You eat the pizza and ice cream.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't plan cheat meals, but when life happens, I don't avoid it. Because sometimes I know this, my cliche saying is like, count the memories, not the calories. Yeah. Sometimes you just have to do that. And I think, you have done an amazing thing in joining Triumph, and the value that you've brought and some of the things that you've taught us and opened our eyes. And, that's why you're the lead nutritionist now, currently heading the charge on this thing. And I mean, I couldn't be prouder of the entire nutrition team as a whole, and just the way that they continue to pour into this community. I mean, if there's one piece, before we're done, one piece of advice, anybody struggling with something, whether it's nutrition related, maybe some old traumas, maybe realizing that they pour themselves into their work. Yeah. Like, if there's one piece of advice that you have found that has been like a pivotal moment for you, or a realization or aha moment, what would it be? On the spot. It's tough. I mean, the big thing that comes to my mind is put yourself first. I mean, that's when you were kind of saying it. It's put yourself first, and that comes with your mind and your body and your health, and to be an advocate for your health. I have to ask the doctors when I go to draw specific labs that I need for my biomarkers. Because they won't do it. No, they won't naturally do it. So that, and like we talked about, don't be afraid to fail. Like, I have shied away from other experiences before because
I don't like doing things that I'm not good at, but that's what builds us, and that's what builds our character, and that's how we're able to walk into rooms with our shoulders more proud and to have more confidence, because we realize that we can conquer the hard things. I hate mobilize. I'm not good at mobilize. I look like a whale on freaking dry land in mobilize, but I do it because I don't want to.
Yeah. And because it is just an incredible experience.
Yes.
I know for me, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, like that class specifically is nutrition for my body in ways that I didn't realize I needed, for my ligaments, for my joints, for everything.
That low impact and just getting into the positions that you get in, that is somatic movement. And that's a big trigger out there for the wellness world, but we're doing it here. And that releases stored trauma. It helps lower your cortisol.
Yeah, and
it strengthens your mind.
And that's the thing, like, I mean, Brady and Kristen have just done an incredible job with that. Like, just the way they continue to push the envelope with that. But you see people, like, there's just a look people have on their face, and there's really magic to that.
I mean, there's magic to riding a bike that goes nowhere and feeling those emotions that happen when you're in that room.
Yeah.
And there's magic when you're on the bag and you're just ripping the shit out of it and the combos flow and you just feel like a badass. And there's magic in boot when you pick up those heavier weights and you do a clean and press, with the bar full.
Yeah.
And there's magic in mobility when you are put into those positions where your mind is telling you what the hell is happening.
I've heard people come out and share with Brady or something. They're like, hey, did you see my back bend?
Right.
Like, I did that for the first time ever. Like,
because we wouldn't normally move that way.
Right. And it's all ties back to having the fire to even try.
Yeah.
And then having the fuel and the knowledge on how to put all of that together.
Right.
Which is, I think, encompasses everything that you've talked about and what Triumph Nutrition and Triumph Studio as a whole is. And
one thing, too, if I can just add a final thought for not just nutrition, but for life, too, add more than you restrict. Add the joy. Add the sleep. Add the long walks. Add the moments of silence. Don't restrict the partying. You know what I mean? Like, if we can just make that mental focus that we're adding in things. Yeah. Because people sometimes are scared, like, I don't want to, restrict the pizza and the ice cream. Add some greens. You know what I mean? Just add more quality to your life. Add more quality nutrients. Add more quality friendships. Add more quality time. Add more quality conversations, books, and it adds time to your life.
Yep. Or if for some reason God decides it doesn't add time, it certainly makes the time you do get a whole lot funner. Yeah. Is funner a word?
It can be today.
It's a word today. Man, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
Just for everything. For your time doing this, for the way you took the 12-month roadmap, and just the love and passion you pour into Triumph. So
thank you.
I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Out.